This week for the Thomas J. Morrissey Show, I spoke with Priyanka Pandey, a student at Michigan State University, about how being Indian American has affected her life and how she acts as a bridge between two cultures. Among other topics, we discussed internet matrimonial sites, the difference between her immigrant parents and many from previous decades, and some misconceptions her Indian relatives have about American life and culture.
It's just such an interesting cultural difference that in the United States, I think internet dating still has kind of a stigma. And people are saying, you met this guy on the internet? Whereas even though in many ways marriage and matrimony are more conservative in India, websites like you said, shadi.com,
right,
are internet dating is one of the only methods of meeting people and meeting marriage candidates.
I mean, I think that's very true just because here you have the stigma, it's almost like you can't find anyone in person, so you have to go online and find somebody. It's almost like, you know, you tried your number one thing and it didn't work, so you have to like resort to plan B. Versus in India, it's more, that was how it always was, you know? Like you didn't have, you know, the internet back then, but you had newspaper personal ads, or you had like Brahmin Samaj conventions. Now one interesting thing about shadi.com, and you'll notice, is a lot of times the people that are posting on shadi.com aren't actually the individual, but they're actually the parents of individuals saying, my daughter is, you know, 25 years old, very slim, very fair, you know, looking for this and this in a guy, please respond if you like them. That's kind of a very, I think, different thing about Indian matrimonial sites. And I mean, I have aunts and uncles that are looking for their own children to get married and have posted on shadi.com, and they're very much turned off by individuals who posted themselves versus having parents that have posted for their children, because for them their thinking is, wow, she must be too much of an individual type person that she's doing this herself, or you know, she has no regard for her family, and that's why she's posting herself versus her family really caring about her and them posting an ad for their child. Like, I feel like in India people get the wrong perception of what America is about, because all you get broadcast in India about America is MTV, and that's really kind of very extreme about, you know,
kind of at the edge.
Yeah,
of
I mean,
culture,
I went back to India last summer, and you know, I was telling people, like, there's a lot of very conservative people in America. You know, like, you know, rap music, some parents don't allow their kids to listen to because it has swear words in it or whatever, and they were just very surprised. They did not take me seriously at all. Like, I think their perception of America is, you know, girls walking around in mini skirts and guys being like very over sexual and just people very after money, that type of thing, but it's really not like that. So I think, if anything, my parents were surprised that it wasn't like that when they got here. Well, I think that when you think about immigrants, I feel like a lot of people think about like people who have been thrown out of their own homes and they're coming to America to create this new home, this new life. But it really wasn't that for my parents. They came here because they saw that they could have earned more money with what my dad had, an engineering degree. So, I mean, I remember, like, even through 4th grade, there was always still talk about moving back to India. And it wasn't because we didn't like it here. It was just, it definitely was more of a visit than a home. When I really got to college and when I started to realize that, you know, there are very much a lot of tendencies about me that aren't Indian. I used to really think that everything I did and everything I do is just very Indian. And I think that I felt that way a lot because the previous couple times I'd gone to India, no one really questioned the fact that I was American. I mean, I was able to speak the language without any accent. I was able to do and say, and I knew all the customs. So, like, really going back, it was just kind of almost a relief because I wasn't really that minority or difference. It just very much felt like home, and I didn't have a problem adjusting. And, you know, people would always tell my parents and would tell me, like, wow, I couldn't tell that you were born and brought up in America. You just are so very Indian. So, I mean, it always felt like, well, if I fit in the best there, then that must be home. And, you know, coming here, you know, having, and, you know, not that I don't like doing it, but sometimes, you know, it just gets tiring having to explain, like, I'm Indian, this is the cultures and customs that my family does, this is why we're different, this is what we eat.
Right now.
Just kind of like what we're doing right now, yes. So it definitely didn't feel like, you know, sometimes it didn't feel like this was home. I think coming to college and then going on my trip last year to India, just realizing that I'm not really as Indian as I thought I was. I realized there's definitely aspects about me that weren't as Indian as I thought. And just living in India for 3 months, it was very strange to me, some of the ways people were acting, and not that they were bad, but just I don't think that I could really live there. And I think that notion of, wow, I don't think I could live here because I would have so many objections to certain things, or, you know, I couldn't get used to certain things, really made me think like, wow, I really do feel much more comfortable in America. In India, like I have cousins, and I felt like they never had the voice to speak about themselves. It was more so, this is what someone else has told me, and this is what I'm supposed to believe, and that's just how it goes. Like there was never really much question about what is. Versus here, I think like I'm definitely an individual. I feel like that challenges what is going on in the world, and I see that in both my brothers as well.